Hello, hello. Welcome back to Expansive Astrology with me, Melissa O'Malley. So glad you're here. Thank you so much for being here. Today is Scorpio season, week 3. Scorpio season, week 3. We're talking all about dropping into our intuition, like strengthening our relationship with our intuition, dropping into the deepest parts of ourselves and trusting our inner knowing. I'm really excited to bring this to you. Before we even get started, take a moment and let me know in the comments, or just take a moment to yourself and kind of take stock, evaluate where your relationship is with your intuition now. Do you feel like an intuitive person? Do you feel like you don't got it? Do you feel very connected with your gut, with your inner knowing? Just explore that. How does it show up for you now? How has it shown up for you in the past? Take stock. Where are you starting with this? Being such an intuitive energy, Scorpio season seems to be the perfect opportunity to really explore our connection with our own intuition. So this week we're diving into the depths of ourselves, touching back in with our intuition and learning to really trust that space. And this is perfectly timed because Sagittarius season, next season, will bring us even more medicine and even more invitations around living from a very soul-centered place. So this now is the perfect, whenever you're watching this, by the way, whenever you're watching this, now is the perfect time to tap in with this and to work on this. And there really is never a wrong time, but during Scorpio season, strengthening our trust in our inner knowing and strengthening our intuition is it's just perfect timing, because then in Sagittarius season, we're really going to work on what it means to live from a soul-centered place, which takes a lot of courage, right? We're gonna get into it, but today we're gonna talk a lot about the difference between brain and soul and how they work together and separately, how to trust your intuition, even if your brain is like, this is woo-woo crazy shit. There's a lot happening this week. So let me know what comes up for you. Let me know what feels the most helpful for you. I would love to hear from you in the comments, where your relationship is with your intuition. When it comes to intuition, I believe this looks different for absolutely everyone, and no one can truly tell you how to do it. And you don't need anyone to tell you how to do it, and they couldn't if they tried, not even me. You can get there. It's within you. You know how already. You just might not know how yet. You know what I mean? You know how. Trust me. You know how, even if you don't know how. So that's the first big thing to learn this week. The first big thing to learn and remember. Part of the whole deal is about trust, is trusting your inner knowing. So again, no one can truly teach this to you. I'm here to share with you my knowing, which is based on my experience, and you have your own knowing and experience and relationship with your own intuition and with the universe that is just as valid as mine, and it's likely different than mine. In fact, I hope it's different from mine, and I'd love to hear from you. How is it different? That really is the first big thing to know, is that nobody can teach you this, and that it's really about practice and perfecting, I don't like that word, but honing in on your own inner knowing and trusting your own inner knowing. That's the first big challenge around this whole topic of intuition. I came across, I don't even know how I found it again. Maybe I was stalking her on Instagram and I was looking back through old photos, And I saw a comment that I had left on this woman's photo. Her name is Manon Matthews. I highly recommend you follow her. She's not only hilarious, she's a hilarious comedian, but she's also very inspiring. She's wonderful, Manon Matthews. But I was looking through her Instagram, and I came across an old comment that I had commented like 2 years ago. I'm not too sure. I don't even know how I found this again, but I'm glad that I did. It was like divine intervention, divine timing. I had commented on this woman's picture where she said, make sure to bless your drinks before you drink them. And I said something like, I love this so much. Can you tell us how you bless your drinks? Can you tell me how to do this stuff, right? Baby witch Melissa, baby witch version of me had no trust in herself. I was always looking for answers from somebody else. You know, my YouTube searches would be like, how to be a witch. I would comment on people's posts and ask them how they set their intentions and how they bless their drinks before they drink them. And seeing that comment from myself, being so far removed from that version of myself, I was like, oh, it's kind of cute. It's kind of sweet that I had no trust in myself. And I was looking for other people to give me answers. You don't need somebody to tell you how to bless a drink. And it's nice. It's not like, don't get me wrong. It's really nice to like get some inspiration or to hear how other people do it. And at the end of the day, nobody can tell you how to set intentions over the tea that you're drinking. Nobody can tell you how to trust your inner knowing more. It's really about, it's a practice. It's a practice. It's a practice that we refine and that changes as the years go by. So just know that, right? I'm here to show you or to share with you my own experience and what I do know about intuition and these things and magic and living from a soul-centered place. And ultimately, it's going to look different for everybody. And I'd love to hear how it's different from you or for you, how maybe you're using what I'm bringing and tweaking it to be yours. I'd love to hear it. So, like I said, we all have intuition. We all have intuition. But for most of us, it's been strategically and systematically shoved into the depths of our psyche, right? Think of all of the ways that we're taught to question ourselves. Think of all the ways we're taught that we have to do the right thing, whatever that means. Like we really live from a brain-based place. Capitalist culture does not benefit from us living from a soul-based place. It's like, it's drained from us by working 40-hour work weeks, by being in buildings with fluorescent lighting all day. It's drained from us by overconsumption and marketing and advertising that we're flooded with. It's drained from us by the patriarchy, by self-medication, by social media, by distraction, overworking, eating foods that are not nutritious, processed food, highly processed foods. There are so many ways that we are strategically and systematically taught to disconnect ourselves from ourselves. There are so many ways. And we're talking about the witch wound. If you've ever heard that phrase, the witch wound. In some ways, that's what we're talking about. How we are cut off from our own magic. So my first invitation for you is to really start to notice all the ways that we disconnect from ourselves, doubt ourselves, distract ourselves. Notice all of the ways, notice these moments and recenter when they come up. Become acutely aware of all the ways your culture and your brain, your family, your job, your house. Think of all the ways that these things try to keep you questioning your gut and try to keep you disconnected from your center. The work here, we're here reclaiming our magic. which we can do at any time of any day. And we do that by acknowledging where we are and recentering ourselves. The first big thing that is called what do I want to say? The first big thing to do when you really want to reconnect with yourself in these ways, and when you really want to strengthen your relationship with your own inner knowing and your own intuition, is to directly state that intent. State that intention. Directly ask for clear guidance. Express your intention to connect with your guides, yourself, the universe, God, angels, whatever that looks like for you. Free will is a big key here. We have to express our wanting. We have to express that you want and are available to tap in and hear from your guides. And again, by guides, I mean your gut, your inner knowing. I mean God, spirit, the universe, your intuition, your ancestors, angels and signs, and all of the above. Whatever resonates for you, whatever you feel like you're most connected with, that's what I mean by guides. So I'll use that word probably a number of times in this video, in this lesson. And it means whatever you're most connected to. So first things first, state what you want. And this will sound different for everyone. Say what you feel called to say. And it might sound something like, I am open to divine guidance. I am open. I'm open and wanting. I desire a more intimate relationship with my guides, with my ancestors, with God. I think it's so important to state that. Set the intention around what you want this to look like. And then, so step 2, after you've directly stated what it is you're wanting, which is trust and guidance from a soul-centered place, right? Step 2 is to practice connecting with your first instinct. This is kind of fun. This can be fun. Have a lot of fun with this. Encourage the volume on your first instinct to get louder. And you can do this by acknowledging those instincts. So many times, like, we have a thought and we stamp it down, we trample it down. For whatever reason. We might have a feeling, we might have a thought, we might have a knowing, and we're disconnected from that. We shove it away. We overthink things, right? Who relates to that? Overthinking. So start to practice shifting that. Don't overthink things. Start to practice just hearing that first instinct that comes up. One way that I used to do this when I was working for an agency as a therapist, and I had 9 clients on my schedule every single day, I would kind of feel into and guess. Essentially, I would guess which of my clients would attend sessions that day and which would cancel. Because in agency work, you get a lot of cancellations or no-shows. And there were certainly times where, unfortunately, I would like hope for cancellations. I was overworked, you know. It's not that I didn't want to see my clients, it's that I was overworked. So there would be times where, like, my brain would get really activated and I would hope or just hope that a client would cancel or reschedule or no show. And that's different, right? Having these very brain-based hopes was separate from, like, my inner knowing, where it was pretty accurate. I could look at the list of names and I would just have a feeling of who was showing up and who wasn't. And that was kind of a fun way to everyday practice, like, okay, what is my first instinct, and how quickly does my brain swoop in and say, well, I hope they do or don't show up. Or, like, my brain would swoop in with, all of these logical reasons I was right or wrong about that. It was, and hopefully this is applicable to you. This is a pretty specific example with a pretty specific type of work, a pretty specific job that I used to have. But start to find ways in your day-to-day, in your everyday life, that you can practice just tuning in and listening to what your inner knowing is, and notice when your brain jumps in with its contributions too, because usually it's like instant. You'll have like an inner knowing, like, I think they're going to call and reschedule today. And then your brain will be like, no, because X, Y, or Z, or whatever. Starting to differentiate when it is your inner knowing, when it is instinctual, and when it is brain. Yeah. Another fun example was back in the before times, before March 2020, before this pandemic, my partner and I would go and play bingo at a brewery with his parents sometimes. And I would always have a little fun, like play a little game with myself and see if I could guess what the next number would be, or see if I could guess who would win, or see if I could guess like what the next pattern would be. Like playing bingo was a fun way to just kind of test this and play with it and get to know those different voices. There are two radio channels that are playing in ourselves at all times, the brain channel and the soul channel. And just learning what those sound like and learning how to adjust the volume on those different channels can be a lot of fun. Find easy ways to play with this in your day-to-day life. Guessing when people are going to show up, guessing which red lights you're going to hit. I don't know, right? But you can play with this, and it's fun. Now, part of this, though, is not doubting the signs that you see, right? The sensations that come up, the little callings, the little chimes of knowing, the little memories or coincidences that come up day to day. As they come up, brain will be like, bullshit, it's a coincidence, it's self-fulfilling prophecy, it's yeah right, you didn't know that, anybody could have guessed that, it was a lucky guess, right? Part of the practice is like telling brain, like, thanks brain, you might be right, maybe it was a coincidence, maybe it is self-fulfilling prophecy, thanks, but kindly shut the fuck up. You can kindly and respectfully, when brain is like bullshit, you can kindly and respectfully ask brain to shut up. And we'll talk a lot more about brain later on. But like thanking brain for its brilliant wisdom and requesting that brain shut the fuck up and let me play with my intuition. Let me play with this. What's the harm? Yeah. Now, signs will look different for everyone, and they come in all shapes and forms. Some people like have visions and like see things, right? Some people hear things. Some people just have very intense, strong feelings about things. This is for you to practice with and to begin to notice. Don't doubt the signs, though. Don't write them off as coincidence. Some examples might be if an email didn't send, it might be nothing. It might be like a technical difficulty, error, a server issue, whatever. Or it might be a signal to rewrite the email, or at least to recenter yourself and check the energy that you're sending the email with before you send it. Right? It might be nothing. You might just have to go back to your drafts and resend it. Or maybe that little snafu is like some sort of signal for you to just tune in and pay attention. Same thing with any sort of traffic issue, traffic snafus. It might just be an inconvenience and that you got stuck in. It might not mean anything. Or maybe you're stuck behind the idiot at the red light because if you didn't get stuck behind the idiot at the red light, you would have gotten into a deadly car crash, a fatal car crash, 3 blocks up the road. Maybe you're stuck behind the idiot at the red light because you need to take a moment. It could be nothing, or it could be something, right? A ringing in your ear might be nothing, or it might be a cue to you to take a deep breath and recenter. A lump in your throat might be a signal that I always believe this about when that lump comes up in my throat. That's my cue that I am not saying something. And sometimes I'm not even acutely aware of what it is that I'm not saying, but that lump in my throat is cluing me in to pay attention and to check in with myself and center myself and figure it out. What is it that you're not saying? Butterflies in your stomach, a certain song playing in the department store. These things might be nothing, or they might be a sign. Don't doubt the signs. Tap into the signs. A wonderful, wise, witchy woman who has kind of guided and mentored me will say, sometimes a rock is a sign, and mostly it's just a rock. So I think that's just important to know, like, sometimes these things are a sign, but mostly it's just a rock. And don't doubt it. If your inner knowing is telling you, ooh, this might be a sign. Ooh, I'm hearing this for a reason. Don't doubt that. Roll with it. What's the harm? What's the harm in rolling with it? And remember, these things might not always make sense to the brain, but good. That's part of the whole point, is getting us out of our damn brains and into our hearts, into our souls, into this human experience, without it being driven by the brain. So these things won't always make sense to the brain. Don't second guess it. It doesn't need to make sense. We don't need to know all of the answers and the details and the specifics. Go with your gut, even especially when you don't have all of the details. It's a lot of trust there. Now, an easy way, isn't, I mean, I say easy, but it's not necessarily easy, but a simple way to strengthen your inner knowing is to simply use, like, hindsight. Pretty simple. Those times when you're like, oh, I knew it. I had a feeling this would happen. I fucking knew it. Notice when those times occur, and use hindsight to determine, like, what kind of signals you might have been missing. If you had a gut feeling and you wrote it off, or you didn't follow it, and later you're like, I knew it. Really notice, like, okay, what came up for me? How did I know that this was going to happen? That's a pretty simple, pretty basic way to start to really honor and notice all the ways that your inner knowing and your gut are showing up for you, is using hindsight. Because we all have those times. We all have those, oh, I knew it. And sometimes those moments are the worst, right? When you had a feeling about something and you didn't follow through, but you fucking knew that something was going to happen. It can be the worst. That's rough. And it's all just lessons. It's all just experiences that we're learning from, right? Now, a massive part of the work of this is identifying what is intuition and what is brain. In my opinion, this is where the bulk of the work, the practice, comes in. And it isn't so easy. It's not so easy to tease apart what is intuition and what is brain, because the brain is loud and it's effective. And like I mentioned earlier, we have been strategically and systematically trained to turn up the volume on brain and turn down the volume on soul. Brain is considered much more important in our culture. So brain is loud. Brain is good at what it does. brain's whole function, its whole shtick is keeping us safe, keeping us secure, keeping us alive, right? So we have to like practice taking a pause. Taking a pause until you can identify the difference. When you're not sure, center in, state your intention. I want to feel more connected to my soul. I want to hear from my guides. I want to hear from the universe, from God. And I'm not sure if this is brain or if this is soul. State your intention, take a pause, reflect, zoom in. Take a pause until you can identify the difference. The brain sometimes needs a break in order for us to even hear intuition. And this is why things will often come to us when we're driving or dreaming or distracted in some other way, when we're coloring or meditating, when the brain is kind of like doing something else and focused on something else and on autopilot. Sometimes we'll get a big old hit from intuition, right? This is why practicing meditation is so important, and why like really tapping in physically and staying grounded and being in our body and embodiment and grounding is so important, because we'll get these hits during those moments, or we'll get like intuitive pulls through our body. So set intentions, intentionally practice turning down the volume on brain, and set intentions around connecting more with the soul. We, as a rule, from here on out, write this down, we listen to the soul, we question the brain. Most of us are operating opposite of that. Most of us listen to the brain real readily, feel safe, keeps us safe, and we question our soul. Let's see if we can flip that around. We listen to the soul and we question our brain. So when we're hearing some sort of, no, I think I should X, Y, or Z. Engage with the brain in those moments. Say, I hear you, but should we? Do we really have to do this thing? What if I don't? Engage with the brain in that way. Anytime your brain is saying like, you should do this, you need to do this, have a little talk with your brain. Sounds crazy. But have a little talk with your brain and really ask like, why should I? Anytime the word should comes up, is a clue that like your brain is activated, by the way. So anytime the word should comes up, it's a good idea to question that should and really look at like, why should I do this? Is it going to keep me alive? Like, actually, will I die if I don't do this thing? Or does it just feel safer? Whatever it may be. We can feel so intensely one way about something and still hear something different from the soul. It's not like thoughts are brain and feelings are soul. Not necessarily. We can feel so intensely one way and still hear something different from soul. Feelings and thoughts and brain invitations are still totally valid and belong with us. We need them. We're thankful for that. We're not, as you're like engaging with the brain in this new way and questioning the brain, it's not about invalidating those things that come up, those feelings and thoughts and fears that might come up. It's not about invalidating those things. We're paying great respect to those things. It's not about like demonizing the brain, and we don't want to turn off the volume to the brain altogether. Totally. No. Please don't do that. Brain is valid and we have to validate it or it just keeps screaming. We have to validate what's coming up in the brain or it just holds on even more and gets louder and louder and more intense. So what does this look like? Acknowledging and validating brain, right? Having a running, respectful dialogue with the brain. Saying to yourself, like, I'm feeling or hearing like a strong pull to whatever it might be. I'm feeling very strongly that I need to do this, that, or the other thing. Do I have to do this? Is this somehow keeping me safe? Again, what if I decided not to listen? I am safe. Thanks, brain. Thanks, brain. But I know I'm safe here, and I'm going to play and explore and see what happens. I respect you, brain, and I'm still listening to you, and you're still a part of the team. So thank you for showing up and serving me. And I am safe. I'm going to make this other choice very intentionally, very carefully. And yeah, it feels risky. And yeah, you're kind of freaking out. This might not be the safest option, but I'm going to go ahead and do this thing regardless. Thanks, brain. I'll catch you next time. I'll let you know when I need you. I think it can be so important and so helpful to have that kind of respectful running dialogue with your brain. Again, validating it, letting yourself know that you're hearing yourself and you're hearing the fears and you're hearing the worries, and sometimes choosing to do the damn thing anyway. So here are some tips, some like rules of thumb, if you will. Brain uses the word should all the time. Guides and soul and your heart never use the word should. It's never about what you should do. Soul just isn't interested in that. Soul is interested in getting dirty and making mistakes and learning through them and expanding and growing and having some fun in this existence. Soul is not going to lead you down like you should do this, you need to do this, like if you don't do this, like bad things will happen. Anytime those sorts of thoughts are coming up, that's brain. Also, when we hear things like, but what will people think? That's brain. When we think we'll lose something if we don't do a thing, that's brain. If it's very like all or nothing, that's brain. When we're really worried about what other people will interpret from us or what they will think about our choices, that's all brain. And you can ask yourself, would this, when you're like caught in this space of not knowing whether this is brain or soul, you can ask yourself, would this be evolutionary or not? Would this be expansive or not? Does this feel safe or not? And this isn't to say the things that keep us safe. That this isn't to say that like we throw away safety or our need for safety. And remember, the brain resists expansion and growing and changing things and living from a soul-based place feels unsafe to brain. Brain keeps us in what feels safe. So asking like, would this change me? Would this change my world? Would this cause me to grow and expand in some way? A lot of times brain will have a lot of contraction around those things. Again, I'm not saying like don't choose the safe thing because that's brain and we're not listening to brain anymore. That's not the message here. Not at all, right? But again, we listen to the soul, we question the brain, and this is all a part of questioning the brain. And you can know that as a rule, the soul will never lie to you. Even those times when things didn't go the way we thought or hoped they would, or when we feel like we totally fucked up by listening to a certain yes or no from our heart, we can have faith that the soul won't ever lie to us. Even if it feels like we've been led astray or tricked somehow, that's totally brain speak. Like, ooh, see, I knew it. I knew this would be a bad idea. I knew this would hurt. And now look, that's brain freaking out. No. Slow down. And remember, like soul never lies. So even when we're living when we're living a soul-centered existence, we know that every experience, every yes and every no was meant for our expansion, our growth in this lifetime. And expansion doesn't always look pretty, and it isn't all about love and light. Expansion doesn't always look pretty, and it'll leave us totally embarrassed sometimes. And this doesn't mean that you fucked up. It doesn't mean that soul lied to you or led you astray. It simply doesn't. It's part of what it's all about. It might be very uncomfortable to feel embarrassed or to have things go in a way that you didn't see them going, right? And that doesn't mean that you were wrong or that your soul was wrong or that your path was wrong somehow. Not at all. It's all about your expansion and your growth. And I think I talk about this when last week in the tarot lesson when I spoke about the Tower card, and how even when the tower comes down and we're looking at the foundation underneath us and we're like, holy shit, what has happened? And we realize that foundation and that tower wasn't what we thought it was. It doesn't mean that everything that tower was built upon was a lie. It was what it was at that time, and we used that ground to build a tower, and we weren't ready to look at the foundation of that tower yet. And it doesn't mean it was a lie. It doesn't mean that whole tower was some sort of like cruel joke from the universe. It just is what it is. And it's all meant for us to research and grow and get better. Trust. This takes a lot of trust, trusting intuition, trusting the practice of it all. Working with brain isn't just about those moment-to-moment situations where we're seeking a yes or a no about something. In fact, it's rarely going to be as simple as a yes or a no, unfortunately. Wouldn't that be wonderful if we could just sit down and be like, yes or no, should I do this? Yes or no, is this the love of my life? Yes or no, will this career take me where I want it to go? Yes or no. That would be wonderful. And it's rarely that simple. This is about allowing ourselves to trust our intuitive knowing, to reconnect with our intuitive knowing. The brain will try to bring us into all sorts of beliefs like, this is stupid, this is silly, you're not intuitive enough, oh, this is just woo-woo shit, you look crazy, like what is this crazy person talking about? That's all brain. And you can trust regardless of those sorts of things. Identify those narratives as brain trying to keep you from appearing crazy or making mistakes or whatever, and trust regardless. Lindsay Mack, my tarot teacher, says the stronger the stories that our brain tells us about our intuition, the better. Because the stronger something is in our brain, the stronger the fear is, the stronger something is, the more the brain tends to shit all over it. So if your brain is like really attacking this whole concept, if the brain is like really like, how do we explain this? This is all crap. It's woo-woo shit, whatever. You must have some major gifts. You must have some serious, strong intuition that is causing the brain to be fucking terrified, because the brain knows that like once you get to those gifts and once you really tap into that intuition, you're not going to rely on the brain as much. So the brain is like, no, that's all crazy shit. You need to listen to me. You need to stay up here, stay disconnected, listen to me, stay safe, stay safe. Play it safe. The brain will bring even more contraction and even more questioning and even more bullshit up, especially when we're like on the precipice of some big expansion, right? So it's a good sign if your brain is like, this is crazy. you're crazy. You can tell brain, like, thank you. I'm not kicking you out of the car, brain. I'm still going to listen to you. I still respect you. You know a whole lot of things, brain. And I'm practicing this thing called soul-centered living. I'm practicing with my intuition, and I trust myself. So I will let you know, brain. I will let you know when I need you. Until then, Lindsay Mack also says the brain is hard and the soul is a whole lot harder, because when we're living from a soul-based place, we're gonna disappoint people. We're gonna actually stand up for ourselves. We're gonna we have potentially like greater self-respect, greater autonomy, greater boundaries. We might not do things in a very linear way that is expected of us. There's going to be a lot that's going to happen, and it might make people a little angry that we're not playing it safe anymore, that we're not laying down, that we're not living in a way that makes other people comfortable, right? And that's all part of the course when we're living from a soul-centered place. So know that, like, this isn't, living from a soul-centered place isn't about just love and light and only doing things that bring us pleasure and only engaging in things that make us feel good. Like, no. It's not always going to feel good. No way. Living from a soul-based place means following our heart, even when our brain is like, no. And that will look like hurting people sometimes. And that will look like changing our minds about things sometimes. And that will look like making like riskier decisions sometimes. That's not easy. Living from a soul-centered place is not easy. It's not all fluffiness. It's not all pleasure and yoga retreats and just sitting and breathing and meditating and setting intentions. It's work. It's work. So just know that. And again, like when we're living from a soul-based place, the potential to have a greater sense of autonomy and to feel like we are living a more authentic existence and to feel like we're actually like accomplishing something with this existence that we've been given. We have greater capacity to meet that potential when we're living from a soul-based place, and when we're able to tap in and go with the heart more often, more readily, less fearfully than we go with the brain. So some affirmations that you can practice with are like, I trust my gut. Tell yourself that over and over and over again. I trust my gut. I trust my gut. I trust my gut. An affirmation of something like, I am opening to my heart. Tell your guides, tell God, tell yourself, tell your brain, I'm practicing opening up to listen to my heart. Tell yourself, tell God, tell your brain, I trust where I am being guided to go. Especially, and even if you don't know what that path really looks like or where it's going to end up, having an affirmation like, I trust where I am being guided to go. It's a beautiful affirmation to have. And like I said, we're going to tap into this even more when we're in Sagittarius season, and we're going to talk about temperance and living from a very soul-centered place. So practicing this now, it's perfect timing. It's perfect timing. Perfect timing. Divine, if you will, divine timing. Next week, we're going to talk a bit more about being in the depths of ourselves and being with like our desires and our heart. We're going to talk about passion and desire and shamelessness and like comfort with vulnerability, comfort with uncomfortable things, taboo things. That's all coming at you next week. But in the meantime, Thank you so much for being here. I really hope that this served. I really hope that this inspires some new ways of looking at these two radio channels, these two radio stations that we all have within us. Even if you feel like you are not a very intuitive person, mark my words, you have intuition. You have an inner knowing, and it's all about practice and trust, practice and trust, practice and trust, practice and trust. Thanks so much for being here. I really hope this served. Let me know what stands out to you in the comments. Let me know your experience with your intuition and tapping in. And if you like what I have to say, you like what I'm doing here, I would be honored to have you subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. It means so much to me. Thanks again. I will see you next week for Scorpio season week 4. Take really good care of yourself. I'll see you then. Bye.